This photo was taken on May 9th, 2025. Vladimir Putin, sitting next to the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, welcomes 29 heads of state at Red Square. In the background, more than 180 military vehicles, tanks, intercontinental ballistic missiles, 11,500 soldiers marching. Lula from Brazil is in the front row. Maduro from Venezuela smiles for the cameras. Putin, at 73 years old, 25 years in power. The image is of an invincible man. This other photo was taken this week. Same Red Square, as the same date approaches. But this time, there are no tanks, no missiles, no armored vehicles. For the first time in almost 20 years, Russia's most sacred parade will be just a column of soldiers on foot. No Xi Jinping, no Lula, no Maduro. By the way, he's in a federal court in New York. On April 28, 2026, the Russian Ministry of Defense made an announcement that took the world by surprise. There would be no military equipment in this year's parade. The official explanation was vague. They said it was because of the current operational situation. But European intelligence sources and Russian journalists in exile uncovered the truth. That decision wasn't made by choice. It was made out of fear. It has to do with a Ukrainian drone that appeared 6 kilometers from the Kremlin. It has to do with an intelligence report that leaked 48 hours ago. It has to do with a name inside Putin's inner circle, someone he now fears more than he fears Ukraine. And it has to do with what happened in Venezuela on January 3rd of this year. Something that now appears in an intelligence report as one of the 3 reasons why Putin disappeared from the public eye. To understand what's happening in the Kremlin now, we need to go back exactly 5 days before the parade, May 4th, 2026. Shortly after midnight in the Mosfilmovskaya neighborhood west of Moscow, one of the most expensive addresses in the Russian capital, a resident wakes up to a strange sound. He grabs his phone and films through the window. What he's seeing is a long-range Ukrainian drone flying low between the skyscrapers just a few meters from the windows. The drone flies past his building, keeps going, and explodes a few seconds later. The target is the Dom na Mosfilmovskaya, a luxury residential tower where the Kremlin elite live, 6 kilometers from Red Square, 4 kilometers from the Russian Ministry of Defense. To reach that building, this drone had to get through something that seemed impossible. Moscow is surrounded by the densest air defense system in the world. 101 anti-aircraft positions surround the Russian capital, including 10 batteries of Russia's most advanced long-range air defense systems, each one costing hundreds of millions of dollars and more than 800 short-range systems. All of them failed to stop this drone. It went past every single one and exploded in a residential building, less than 6 kilometers from Vladimir Putin's office. The Kremlin's reaction was revealing. The mayor of Moscow downplayed the attack. He posted a short message on Telegram simply saying there were no victims. There was no official statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense. There was no statement from Putin. There was silence. But there was something else. In the following 24 hours, Moscow's mobile internet was cut off, a measure that the Kremlin itself admits is part of the defense against drones. Security around Red Square was doubled, and the Russian Ministry of Defense issued an unprecedented threat. If Ukraine attacked the May 9th parade, Russia would launch a massive missile strike against the center of Kyiv. The question the Kremlin doesn't want to answer is simple. If the world's most expensive air defense couldn't stop one drone, what will stop 10 or 100 during the parade? The answer is nothing. And Putin knows that. That drone from May 4th was just the latest in a series of events that reduced Vladimir Putin to the man who is now in command of Russia. A man who, according to European intelligence, hasn't slept in Moscow for weeks. Vladimir Putin has ruled Russia for 25 years. During all this time, he built the image of the Iron Tsar, the man who received foreign presidents in the Kremlin with an air of someone who feared nothing and no one. In 2026, this man disappeared. In 2025, Putin attended at least 17 major public events. Parades, meetings with dignitaries, visits to military facilities. In 2026, that number plummeted. He did not meet with any Western leader in person. And his interviews on state television, according to Russian media in exile, are mostly pre-recorded videos presented as if they were live. And there's a reason. Putin no longer sleeps in Moscow regularly. According to a European intelligence report reported by the Financial Times and CNN in recent days, Vladimir Putin has been spending weeks in bunkers in the Krasnodar region in southern Russia. His family now lives with him inside these bunkers. The security measures around him are unprecedented in modern Russian history. Cooks, bodyguards, and photographers from Putin's inner circle have been banned from using cell phones with internet access. These employees' homes have also come under surveillance. It is also believed, and this appears in Western intelligence reports, that Putin uses at least 3 surgically altered body doubles. Analysts in Ukrainian intelligence have already stated that the man who appears at some official visits is not the real Putin. Putin's former speechwriter, Abbas Galyamov, who is now exiled, recently made a direct comparison. What we are witnessing is Putin repeating, 80 years later, the last days of Adolf Hitler. The same bunker isolation. The same obsessive micromanagement of the war. The same distrust of his own generals. But all this security apparatus was set up for a reason that Putin does not admit publicly. He's not just hiding from Ukrainian drones, he's hiding from someone much closer. This week, newspapers like the Financial Times and CNN, along with some Russian media outlets in exile, published excerpts from a report by a European intelligence agency that asked not to be identified. The first line of the report is straightforward. The Kremlin is concerned about the risk of a coup attempt or assassination against Putin, particularly with the use of drones by the Russian political elite itself. The report then mentions a name: Sergei Shoigu. 69 years old, Russia's former defense minister for more than a decade. He commanded the invasion of Ukraine. Currently, he is the secretary of the Russian Security Council. It's an apparently lesser position, but it still gives him enormous power. The report describes Shoigu as a potential destabilizing factor. On March 5, 2026, Ruslan Salakov was arrested. For decades, Salakov was the right-hand man of Sergei Shoigu, the Deputy Minister of Defense. The European intelligence report interprets the arrest as a violation of the informal protection agreements among the elites. This weakens Shoigu and increases the likelihood that he himself will face criminal charges. And Salakov's arrest is not the only sign. In the last 15 months, 3 Russian lieutenant generals have been murdered in Moscow, all by bombs hidden in electric scooters or in their own cars. 13 Russian generals have been killed since the beginning of the invasion, more than in the entire Second Chechen War. And to understand why this scares Putin, why he now even distrusts his own generals, you just have to look at what happened before. In June 2023, Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner Group and an ally of Putin for decades, turned his troops toward Moscow. It was the biggest internal threat to the Russian government since Putin came to power. 2 months later, Prigozhin's plane crashed. No one survived. European intelligence now indicates that the next Prigozhin may be much closer than Putin would like. But to understand why Putin has reached this level of paranoia, we need to go back to the event that, according to European intelligence itself, triggered all of this. An event that happened almost 10,000 kilometers from Moscow and that Putin watched without saying a word. January 2nd, 2026. 10:46 p.m. Mar-a-Lago, Florida. At Donald Trump's golf club, the president finishes a conversation with General Dan Kane, the highest military authority in the United States. Trump gives the final approval for the mission with 5 simple words: good luck and fair winds. That same night, more than 150 American aircraft take off from 20 different bases across the Americas, converging toward the Miraflores Palace in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. Inside is Nicolas Maduro, who has been president of Venezuela for 13 years, an ally of Putin, Iran, and China. The man who, for more than a decade, mocked the United States by saying he would never fall. The attack begins at 2 in the morning local time. An American cyber attack cuts the power in Caracas. In the dark, American helicopters appear over the presidential palace. Elite Delta Force soldiers enter the residence. Inside, Nicolas Maduro tries to run to a safe room with steel walls and a steel door. Maduro reaches the door, but he can't close it. The American soldiers arrive too quickly. Maduro is captured along with his wife, Celia Flores. The two are taken in handcuffs to a helicopter. In less than an hour, the task force was in international waters with the 2 prisoners on board. Hours later, the former president of Venezuela gets off a U.S. Department of Justice plane on American soil, escorted by agents from the FBI and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. Images of Maduro handcuffed on American soil spread around the world. But there is one specific man, almost 10,000 kilometers away, who reacts in a very particular way. This man is Vladimir Putin. According to the European intelligence report that leaked this week, the same report that names Sergei Shoigu as a possible internal threat. The capture of Nicolas Maduro made it onto the list of the 3 main factors that triggered Putin's current paranoia. But the capture of Maduro is the psychological trigger for a simple reason. If the United States managed to get into the palace of Putin's main ally in Latin America, capture the president in an hour, and take him handcuffed to New York, what would stop the same thing from happening to Putin? The answer Putin gave himself, according to European intelligence, was simple: nothing. And it was in the weeks following that January night that Putin began to transform into the man who is now in the Kremlin, locked in bunkers, surrounded by body doubles, and suspicious of his own generals. And it was with this nightmare in his mind that Putin, 3 months later, made the decision that stopped the world: to remove the tanks from the victory parade. Saturday, May 9th, 2026 at Red Square in Moscow, the most sacred parade on the Russian calendar will take place. But the parade the world will see won't look like any other in the past 2 decades. The column of more than 180 military vehicles that rolled through Red Square in 2025 will be gone. In the place where they were, there will be only empty asphalt. The 11,500 soldiers who marched in 2025 have been drastically reduced. To fill the ranks, according to the Ukrainian resistance group Atesh, the Russian command is pulling soldiers from the front line in Ukraine, replacing them with mobilized troops who have no combat experience. The 29 foreign leaders who went to Red Square in 2025 have been reduced to 7. The confirmed attendees are Lukashenko from Belarus, Tokayev from Kazakhstan, and Japarov from Kyrgyzstan. Robert Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia and one of Moscow's last allies in the European Union, is going to Moscow. but he announced that he will not attend the parade. And in at least 14 Russian cities, including Sevastopol, Belgorod, and all of Crimea, the Victory Day parades were canceled for security reasons, for the first time in almost 2 decades. And that's why everything the world will watch on Saturday is, deep down, a ceremony of acknowledgement. The admission that Russia no longer has what it used to show. No tanks, no allies, no reliable air defense, not even security within the president's inner circle. 25 years ago, Vladimir Putin came to power promising to restore the Russian Empire. On May 9th, he will preside from atop the tribune above Lenin's mausoleum over the smallest parade of the last 2 decades. This contrast is what the European intelligence report calls a public admission of the regime's current weakness. It's not the end of Putin, but it's the first time in almost a quarter of a century that this weakness will be shown live. And that's why the decision to withdraw military equipment from the parade is, in itself, the most important news. On Saturday, Putin will preside over the smallest parade of the last 2 decades. The official justification will be the operational situation. The real justification, as shown by this week's European intelligence reports, is another one. He is afraid of Ukraine, of his own generals, and of what happened to Maduro in January. Putin will not fall immediately. But the Russia he governs today is not the same as it was a few months ago. And the parade on the 9th will be the first public admission of this change. And perhaps no one summed it up better than the Ukrainian president himself, Volodymyr Zelensky, in a statement this week.
Russia has reached the point where its main parade already depends on us, and this is a clear sign. It needs to end. I thank everyone who is with us, everyone who is with Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine!
If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and enable notifications. See you next time.